So I'm Janessa Berens, and we've been coming to ABC. I think I started in May of 2023, so about 2 years.
And then I'm Sam Berens, and we've been married for just over a year. This June was a year.
We actually met on a dating app, and I had the app on my phone for a week. He was the only date I got out of it.
I don't know, I didn't really, never how I thought I would meet the person I was gonna marry, but just ended up, first time I'd really ever gone on a date through a dating app. I hadn't had it that long either. It's just something that had never worked until that point. And then, went on a date, things went really well, kept pursuing dating, and then she said she was going away for another travel assignment. So I'm like, sure, I'll try long distance. Just worked so well that when she came back, it was like, yeah, let's keep pursuing this. And then
Got married 6 months after that. I kind of moved around a lot. Was born in the Midwest in Ohio, and I was 6 when my family moved to Texas, and we were there for 5 or 6 years. We were very involved in church. That was kind of our big background. We're homeschooled, so my mom stayed home with us, which is always great.
So growing up, I was born in Grand Haven, raised in Grand Haven. My folks grew up in church, went to Christian school all the way through, from preschool through 12th grade. Spent a lot of time at the beach, hanging around. Went to Western Michigan Christian. I loved playing soccer.
We were very involved in everything at church. We were always very faithful to the church, very faithful to service. So I was in a church for about 5 years when I was going to college, and then left that church when I went and travel nursed. And so I always had a church when I was travel nursing, but it's for short periods of time. And when I came home, I said I wanted to be in something long-term that I could build relationships. And I actually rented an apartment that was 2 miles from here. I looked on Google and found all the churches in the area and did a little research on what they believe and came to this one and just never looked back. I love the connection groups here. It's probably the best example I've ever seen done. I've always thought small groups are good, but I just don't think they've ever fully reached what the level that they should or what they should be doing. But here you see people pouring into each other's lives, doing fun things with each other, doing life with each other.
Big fan of my last church and nothing but love for them, but it was a much larger church, and I'd served there for years and grown a lot, but was just kind of feeling called to do something different. And coming here, it was just everything from just how genuine people are, and the idea about relationships and the gospel preaching, the worship, every aspect of it I loved. And I especially grew more and more to love, and still loving the idea of witnessing and the focus on just the Great Commission. And a lot of that was just never taught on when I was growing up. And then even at my last church, they talked about it, but it was not emphasized like it is at ABC. And the idea that, hey, our life we're called to be on mission. That whole aspect was always missing from my faith walk, I would say. So to have it be such a big factor here, it's just something that we've both grown in love with more and more as we continue to attend.
I think baptism is really important because not only is it that public profession of faith, but also I think you're just kind of identifying with your other believers. It's a great way to witness to other people too. I was actually baptized really early. I was baptized at 6. I was the last of my siblings to come to know the Lord. To me, it's you're washing off that old nature and just really, truly showing the world that what's important to you and symbolizing that.
Why baptism is important to me, I guess, is it's something that it is very important, and it is that public proclamation of faith and identifying with Christ, as well as it's something that I've been baptized twice. I was growing up CRC. I was baptized as an infant, and then again when I got saved at 17, I got baptized, and that was something I wrestled with at first, because growing up in CRC, I was I don't need to get baptized again. That's not. But just knowing the biblical model, hey, whenever someone came to Christ in Acts and in the early church, it was salvation and then baptism. And baptism isn't what saves you, but that identifying that this is a symbol of changing from one state to another. This is showing what God's doing in my life.
I think probably one of the hardest phases of my life was teen years. We went through a really big church split at the time. Both of my parents were very involved in that, and didn't really have time for us kids. I think they were so involved in that. And I was struggling with a lot of anxiety over and just normal teen stuff. And I also was wrestling with my faith at the time. And I actually went to summer camp, which is where I rededicated my life at that point, and just really came to understand God's love for us and his desire for us to be in relationship with him and for that to affect our relationships with other people. And I came back from that camp really refreshed, and there was a youth leader who had really poured into me, and I'm so thankful for that because that gave me courage to keep going and really dived into my faith and made it my own at that point. And I think if I had not had that, I don't know where I would be. That was a really, really difficult time.
I'd probably say the toughest time of my life is what ended up leading to salvation for me as well. I was probably, it's kind of over the course of 2 years, but it'd be more of going into my sophomore year of high school. My oldest brother got his then girlfriend pregnant, and at a Christian high school, it was just kind of really something that was very looked down upon and like understandable, but like for me growing up in the way we did, more legalist and trying to just be, do all the right things because that's what good people did, and you went to church, and it just, I started getting very bitter and angry because now there's a lot of judgment, and I saw the kids around me and the people around me who I thought were Christians behaving in the same manner really I had growing up, where it was like all about doing the right things, but then on the side you could do whatever you wanted, and as long as people didn't know and your sin didn't get found out, it didn't really matter. And I got to the point where seeing the people around me, I legitimately asked, I remember thinking multiple times, if this is Christianity, and seeing what the people I thought were Christians around me, how they were living, if this is Christianity, I remember saying I don't want anything to do with that. That summer, my mom forced me to go to a summer camp, and through that message, me and actually my twin brother at the same time both gave our lives to Christ. And just kind of that's kind of what led me out of that, and then getting plugged in at a church after that, and serving eventually through a lot of sanctification mistakes still yet, but like that's really what led me through it, was having God work and move and use that situation in my life to lead me to that summer camp to be confronted with the gospel.
My favorite verse or chapter is Psalm 73 because it just always regrounds me and reminds me that I'm not chasing what the world wants and what the world sees as having a good life. I'm always reminded that, when you look around and you look at other people, there isn't a reason to be jealous because they have everything they're ever going to have now. In eternity with Him, we get everything.
When we were dating, we both had that verse in common, that Psalm 70. And Psalm 73 for me, I especially like the last couple verses, but that was a big thing in my life. And then having it be her favorite, or a big meaningful verse to her, was something we bonded over when we were dating. Just seeing the change in life before knowing Christ, especially with outlook overall. You start to have, and something I pray for too, is like you start to have a different heart towards people. You start to care about people more. No longer is everyone there for your benefit, but you start to care about people's hearts, and knowing that that's not from inside of you, because inside of us is just selfish, and would not be something where we would be thinking of, but just like an overall attitude in day to day, and it's the big one's gratitude. Just being so thankful for the little things that before knowing Christ, it was like it would just be another day. Like you're not tossed by every whim or emotion or circumstance. It's just through it all, God's there, and you don't have to be like the world where it's like you're constantly bouncing.
I had become very hard towards people in our lives. We'd had a lot of church hurt, and I think that contributed to my struggle. And so as a teen, when I did finally come to know the Lord, I came pretty angry at people and angry at the world, and I hardened myself instead of accepting what was always there. That He's always loved us, He's always pursued us, He always wants relationship with us, and He wants us to come into eternal fellowship with Him, and I ignored that for years. But after I changed, I saw a whole new nature. I changed what I wanted to go into as a career. It gave me a heart for people, compassion. You started seeing people for the hurt that they probably have too. I think it truly changes everything about you. I think people notice that you're more positive at work. You have such a rock solid identity. The amount of people that come to me to tell me they're hurting in this way, or coworkers who will pour out their whole life to you, and it all really comes down to they have no identity. And like Sam was saying, they're like the world, they're always tossed back and forth on everything that gets thrown at them. It's life altering, it's changing. But when your identity is in Christ, and when I learned that my identity is in Christ, you're rock solid. It does not matter what comes at you in life, and people notice that. Jesus changes everything.
Jesus changes everything.